I was hiding $40,000 in credit card debt from my wife, and the day she found those statements was the day our marriage nearly ended. My stomach dropped as I watched her face shift from confusion to betrayal. Years of trust shattered in seconds. In this video, I'm sharing the raw, unfiltered story of how financial secrets nearly cost me everything, and the exact system we used to rebuild both our marriage and our bank account. If you've ever kept money secrets from your partner, or suspect they're keeping them from you, this is the conversation you need to hear. The warning signs I completely missed. Ever wonder what red flags appear before financial secrets blow up your relationship? I missed every single one. Looking back, the signs were practically screaming at me, but somehow I managed to ignore them all. You'd think after 7 years of marriage, I'd notice when my wife's behavior around money started changing, but I guess denial is a powerful thing. From the outside, we looked like the perfect couple. Weekend brunches with friends, annual vacations to the beach, and those cute little arguments about which Netflix show to binge next. But beneath that carefully maintained surface, strange money behaviors were popping up everywhere. I just wasn't paying attention. It started small. A missing credit card statement here, a sudden password change on our online banking there. Nothing that couldn't be explained away with a reasonable excuse. Oh, the mail must have gotten lost, or I changed all my passwords after that data breach in the news. And I believed every word because why wouldn't I? This was the woman I trusted with everything. Then came the defensive reactions whenever I brought up anything remotely related to money. One night over dinner, I casually mentioned that maybe we should start saving for a house down payment. What should have been a normal conversation turned into a tense exchange that ended with her snapping. Can we just enjoy one meal without talking about money? I remember thinking her reaction seemed extreme, but I chalked it up to a bad day at work. The weirdest moments were the physical reactions. Like when credit card commercials would come on TV, and she'd suddenly need to use the bathroom or remember something important in the other room. At first, I didn't connect these behaviors. They seemed random, isolated incidents. But looking back, the pattern is embarrassingly obvious. Then there were the basic money questions that turned into defensive standoffs. Hey, did you pay the electric bill? Would be met with, why are you always checking up on me? Or, don't you trust me to handle anything? These overreactions should have been giant red flags, but instead I started walking on eggshells, avoiding financial topics altogether just to keep the peace. As months passed, our disconnection grew. Conversations became surface level. Date nights felt forced. I noticed she was working late more often, and when she came home, she'd immediately check the mail before I could get to it. Sometimes I'd hear her taking phone calls in the bathroom with the shower running. If you're thinking this sounds like the behavior of someone having an affair, you'd be right, except her affair was with mounting debt, not another person. The secrecy created invisible walls between us. I'd rationalize everything. She's just private about money, or she's probably embarrassed about spending on something she thinks I'll judge. I made excuses because the alternative, that the person I trusted most was hiding something significant, was too painful to consider. What I didn't realize was how much financial stress was physically affecting both of us. She developed insomnia, tossing and turning beside me while I pretended to sleep. I noticed she was constantly checking her phone, jumping whenever it buzzed with notifications. Her temper grew shorter, and the smallest disagreements escalated into silent treatments that lasted for days. My own body was sending warning signals too. Tension headaches became my constant companion. I started grinding my teeth at night so badly that my dentist recommended a mouthguard. Our home, once our sanctuary, felt charged with an undercurrent of anxiety neither of us acknowledged. The intimacy that had once been effortless between us virtually disappeared. Not just physically, though that certainly took a hit, but emotionally too. You can't be truly intimate with someone when one of you is carrying a massive secret. Every conversation becomes a potential minefield. Every question possibly leading to the exposure you're desperately trying to avoid. Looking back, I'm amazed at how these behaviors perfectly mimic those of romantic infidelity. The secretive phone calls, the defensiveness, the emotional withdrawal, the late nights at the office. It's all from the same playbook. Financial infidelity follows the exact same patterns because it stems from the same place, betrayal, of trust and shame. What makes financial secrets particularly insidious is how easy they are to hide in plain sight. Society has trained us to avoid talking about money. It's considered impolite, uncomfortable, private. This social taboo creates the perfect cover for financial secrecy to thrive, even between two people who share a bed, a home, and supposedly a life. The lies of omission piled up between us. Not just her hiding financial information from me, but me pretending not to notice the growing distance. We were both complicit in maintaining the illusion that everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. I became an expert at ignoring the evidence right in front of me because facing it meant confronting a truth I wasn't ready for. As weeks turned into months, her behavior became increasingly erratic. Mail would mysteriously disappear. She'd become defensive about the most innocent questions. She set up a separate email account for work and was constantly clearing the browser history on our shared computer. She started making excuses to avoid social gatherings with our friends, particularly the ones who worked in finance or were good with money. I remember one night clearly. We were at a dinner party when someone mentioned their financial advisor. My wife knocked over her wine glass, creating enough of a distraction to completely change the subject. On the drive home, she was silent, staring out the window with a look of such profound sadness that I almost pulled over to ask what was really going on. But I didn't, because part of me was afraid of the answer. The physical toll continued to mount. She developed stress-induced eczema that she'd scratch until it bled when she thought I wasn't looking. I started having panic attacks for the first time in my life, usually when checking the mail or looking at our bank account. We were both suffering, separately but in parallel, connected by a secret only one of us fully understood. With each passing day, the tension in our home grew thicker. Simple decisions like where to eat dinner or what movie to watch became fraught with unspoken conflict. We stopped making future plans. Vacation discussions were shut down. Talks of starting a family were postponed indefinitely. Our relationship existed entirely in the present tense because the future was too frightening to contemplate. All these warning signs were building toward an inevitable breaking point. Something had to give. The human body and mind can only sustain that level of stress for so long before something breaks. For us, that breaking point came on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday afternoon with a certified letter I happened to collect from the mailbox before she got home. My $40,000 web of lies. The certified letter was just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath it lay $40,000 of debt I'd carefully hidden through a system that would impress professional con artists. What drives a person who genuinely loves their partner to construct such an elaborate financial house of cards? The answer might hit closer to home than you think. It started innocently enough. A few years into our marriage, I wanted to surprise my wife with a weekend getaway for our anniversary. Our savings account was looking pretty sad at the time, but I figured one small credit card charge wouldn't hurt. We had an amazing time, and seeing her so happy made the $1,200 charge seem completely worth it. I planned to pay it off over the next 2 months without mentioning it. But then my car needed unexpected repairs the following week. Another $800 on the card. No big deal, I told myself. I just need 3 months instead of 2 to clear the balance. This pattern continued, a new suit for job interviews, helping my brother through a rough patch, a laptop when mine died mid-project. Each purchase had a perfectly reasonable justification. I wasn't being frivolous. These were necessities or investments in our future, right? At least that's what I told myself as the balance crept upward. By the 6-month mark, I was juggling 2 credit cards with a combined balance of nearly $7,000. The minimum payments were starting to squeeze our monthly budget, which led to the next fatal step. I opened a balance transfer card with 0% interest for 18 months. Problem solved, or so I thought. This is where my financial deception transformed from a small snowball into an avalanche. With the breathing room of the balance transfer, I didn't address my spending habits. Instead, I now had 3 credit cards, and those original cards had fresh available credit again. When holiday season rolled around, I justified using them, just this once, since I had the balance transfer card under control. Before I knew it, I was opening new accounts every 6 to 8 months, transferring balances in an elaborate shell game. I'd memorized the promotional offer cycles of every major bank. I could tell you exactly which credit unions didn't report to all 3 credit bureaus. I became an expert at financial deception, just not at financial management. The logistics of hiding this growing web became increasingly complex. I created a separate email account for financial statements. I downloaded a special app that would alert me when mail was about to be delivered, so I could intercept anything suspicious before my wife saw it. I volunteered to handle bill payments, not out of helpfulness, but to control what she saw. I kept a detailed spreadsheet tracking payment due dates, minimum payments, and which accounts could still qualify for balance transfers. My browser history was meticulously cleared after each session, managing my secret financial life. I even had a separate phone passcode for banking apps that I kept hidden in a password-protected folder. But the most elaborate part of my deception wasn't the logistics. It was the mental gymnastics I performed to justify it all. I'm protecting her from unnecessary worry. I'd tell myself while lying awake at 3 a.m. calculating interest payments. She's already stressed about her job. This would just make things worse. My favorite self-deception was the hero narrative. I'll fix this before she ever finds out, and she'll never have to know how close we came to financial disaster. I cast myself as the noble protector, shouldering this burden alone. The reality? I was terrified of losing her respect and love if she discovered how badly I'd mismanaged our finances. The weight of carrying this secret was crushing. I developed a physical reaction to the mail truck. My heart would race and palms would sweat when I heard it approaching. Work calls became anxiety-inducing nightmares as I worried creditors might call during dinner. Every casual conversation about future plans or purchases became a minefield I had to carefully navigate. The shame was the worst part. Financial shame is uniquely isolating. It feels too personal to discuss with friends, too embarrassing to seek help for, and too threatening to admit to your partner. I felt like a failure as a husband, as an adult, as a provider. This shame created a terrible cycle. Feeling bad about myself led to occasional comfort purchases to feel better, which deepened the debt, which intensified the shame. The more the debt grew, the more impossible coming clean seemed. By the time it hit $20,000, I convinced myself that confession would definitely end our marriage. At $30,000, I believed it might actually be kinder to my wife to maintain the lie than to burden her with the truth. At $40,000, I was living in a constant state of dread, knowing it was only a matter of time before my house of cards collapsed. What I didn't realize then, but understand painfully well now, is that financial infidelity follows the same destructive pattern as any other form of betrayal. It starts small, with seemingly justifiable actions. It escalates gradually, each step making the next deception easier. The lies required to maintain the secret multiply exponentially. And the longer it continues, the more devastating the eventual discovery becomes. I'm not alone in this behavior, though it felt that way at the time. Research shows that approximately 70% of couples keep financial secrets from each other. A survey by the National Endowment for Financial Education found that 1 in 3 people who have combined finances with their partner have committed financial infidelity. The most common forms include hiding purchases, bills, or cash, like I did, keeping secret accounts, guilty, and lying about income or debt, check and check. The psychology behind financial secrecy is fascinating and disturbing. Studies show that people are more likely to lie about money than almost any other topic, even more than infidelity in some cases. Money represents not just purchasing power, but security, freedom, status, and self-worth. When we feel threatened in any of these areas, the impulse to hide financial problems can become overwhelming. My elaborate financial fabrications weren't just about the numbers. They were about protecting my ego, avoiding difficult conversations, and maintaining an image of competence. Every new credit card, every intercepted statement, every password change was another brick in the wall separating me from authentic connection with the person I loved most. I became hypervigilant, constantly monitoring my wife's access to financial information. I volunteered to check the mail daily. I installed a sophisticated alert system on my phone that notified me when bank statements or bills were about to arrive. I created elaborate stories about why certain expenses appeared on our joint account. The mental load of maintaining these deceptions was exhausting. Living with this kind of secret creates a peculiar form of loneliness. You're physically present, but emotionally isolated. I'd be sitting next to my wife on the couch, seemingly engaged in conversation, while mentally calculating how I'd cover the minimum payments that month. I'd laugh at a movie while my stomach churned with anxiety about the latest credit card statement sitting in my secret email account. The day everything fell apart, that emotional isolation couldn't last forever. And for me, it ended on a completely average Tuesday that would permanently divide my life into before and after. What's scarier than getting caught in a $40,000 lie? The quiet devastation in your partner's eyes when they realize they've been sharing a life with someone they don't actually know. I remember everything about that day with painful clarity. The weather was unseasonably warm for October, and I'd actually felt good that morning. My secret credit card payment had cleared. I'd managed to transfer some money between accounts to cover our mortgage, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. That false sense of security is exactly why I wasn't prepared for what happened next. I was working from home that day when I heard the mail truck. My wife usually arrived home around 6, giving me plenty of time to intercept anything sensitive. But as I glanced out the window, I saw her car in the driveway. She'd come home early, something about a canceled meeting, and had already collected the mail. When I walked into the kitchen, she was standing at the counter, an opened envelope in her hand, her face unnaturally still. It was a credit card statement I'd been waiting for, one I'd planned to intercept. One that showed not just the current balance, but a detailed payment history going back months. "What is this?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. "This says we have a platinum card with a $22,000 balance. We don't have this card." I opened my mouth to spin another lie. Some story about identity theft or a banking error. But the words wouldn't come. After years of deception, my body simply refused to produce another lie. Instead, I said nothing, which was confession enough. I watched as understanding dawned across her face. She started digging through the stack of mail, finding another statement I'd missed. Then she looked up at me with an expression I'll never forget. Not anger, but something worse. Complete bewilderment, as if she was looking at a stranger who had somehow been living in her house. "How many more are there?" she asked. That question broke something in me. Not because of its accusation, but because of its simplicity. Not "how could you?" or "what were you thinking?" Just a straightforward request for the truth, finally. "5 cards," I said, my voice barely audible. "And a personal loan." She sat down slowly at our kitchen table, the statements spread out before her. "How much?" "About 40,000. The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the silence that followed. 10 seconds. 20. A full minute passed before she spoke again. "I don't even know who you are anymore," she said, and those 9 words cut deeper than any screaming match could have. Because they were true. I had become someone else, a person who lied daily to the person I loved most. What followed wasn't the dramatic blow-up you might expect. There was no thrown glassware, no slamming doors. Instead, there was something far more devastating, a profound, weighty silence that seemed to fill every corner of our home. She didn't cry or yell. She simply gathered the statements, walked to our bedroom, and closed the door. That night, I slept on the couch, not because she asked me to, but because I couldn't bear to lie next to her, knowing what I had done. The next morning, she left for work without waking me. The only sign she'd been there was a notepad on the kitchen counter with a single question written on it. Why? Financial betrayal creates a unique kind of relationship trauma. It's not just about the money. It's about the systematic deception that makes your partner question every memory, every moment you've shared. Each time I'd said, "I can't afford that right now," or "let's save for that vacation," became suspect. Each financial decision we'd made together was now tainted by the knowledge that I'd been operating from a completely different reality than the one I'd presented to her. The days that followed exist in my memory as a blur of painful conversations. I revealed everything, every account, every debt, every lie I'd told to cover previous lies. I showed her the elaborate system I'd created to track payment due dates, the secret email accounts, the budgeting app on my phone that contained our actual financial situation. We lived like roommates for weeks. Polite, distant interactions about household necessities. "We need milk. The garbage needs to go out." Nothing more. The emotional connection between us seemed severed, perhaps permanently. I'd catch her looking at me sometimes with an expression I couldn't read. Not hatred, but something more complex. A recalculation of who I was and what our life together actually meant. At night, I'd hear her crying in our bedroom while I lay. Awake on the couch, the weight of my actions pressing down on my chest until I could barely breathe. The question that kept me awake wasn't whether she would leave me. I assumed that was inevitable, but how I had become someone capable of such prolonged deception. 3 weeks after that fateful Tuesday, she asked me to join her at the kitchen table. She had a legal pad covered in notes and figures. I assumed this was it, the division of assets, the untangling of our lives. Instead, she pushed the pad toward me. "This is everything," she said. "Every debt, every account I know about. Is there anything missing?" I studied the list, my shame growing with each line. She had meticulously documented everything I'd revealed. There were no gaps, no missing accounts. "That's everything," I confirmed. She took a deep breath. "I need to know if you're willing to fix this. Not just the money, us. Because I can't live with someone I don't trust. And right now, I don't trust you at all." That moment was the rock bottom I needed to hit. Not the discovery itself, but the realization that my actions had fundamentally broken something precious. The hurt in her eyes wasn't just about the debt. It was about the thousands of moments I'd chosen deception over honesty, chosen to carry my burden alone rather than trust in our partnership.